Long time. I just got back from Oh, you're recording this?
Simply because you're all so handsome and gorgeous, give yourselves a round of applause. Oh, yes. Some people don't seem to believe that they are actually handsome and gorgeous, but trust me, you are. Thank you all for coming to another night of Peel Street Poetry, a special night in which we launch a deep political treatise on the effects of communism on hedgehog society, written by your own Blair Reeve. Yeah! I hope you've all bought a copy. So here's how this is going to go. I'm going to briefly run off some events, and then I will introduce Peter Kennedy. But first, this week, so we're doing Blair's launch. After we launch the book and they do their performance, we will take a break in which you can buy the book, get it signed. Then we will do the open mic. After that, we'll have a usual first round, second round. I believe we're going till 11 or 10:30 tonight. So there's loads of time if you want to read a poem. Get them ready, all that stuff. I know you have them all percolating in your head. Next week, by the way, we are at Fringe Club for Out Loud. We're not here next week. We're at Fringe Club. And the week after that, we are back here again to launch Celia's book. And for those of you that, Celia's book. And for those of you that have seen on Facebook, Celia is running a bit of an event where you can win a free book if you write a poem around the theme of my philosophy of nothingness, which is pretty cool. Well, one of these more dead. There are seats down front if that's what you're looking for. Hey, buddy. Kai is so cute. He's going to distract me all night. I'm just going to be looking at Kai. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Peter Kennedy.
When the British poet Luke Kennard was out here, I don't know whether any of you saw him, he said the first two things that people noticed about him was his accent and the fact that he's very tall. Now the last thing we notice about Blair is his height. And as for Blair's accent, nowadays he can almost say fish and chips with an English accent. When John Wall Barger was around, I used to think of them as twins, really. The sounds man and the pictures man. But at a recent poetry slam, some of us would have seen Blair's amazing ability to conjure up 3 vivid pictures in a poem written in 5 minutes. So he's quite a versatile fellow. His performances, we all know, are mesmerizing. He doesn't babble, he bubbles. He never dabbles for the rabble, but he redoubles, takes trouble not to mumble or stumble, wham-bangles and effervesces to a crescendo delight. And he remembers it all. When I first heard Blair, I thought of Edwin Morgan and Bob Cobbing, some of you will know, the performance poets who worked with musicians like Concrete Canticle. As a jazz fan, I think Blair's poems in the styles of different jazz musicians are amazing, and I hope he's going to release them as a CD for someone old tech like me. Now, we're here to celebrate the book, Hogart the Hedgehog turns Nink. The choice of a hedgehog, Mammalia, Erinaceo, Morpha, or First Pig, is a little bit surprising, because the hedgehog is prickly with barbed quills, whereas the Blair is gregarious, sociable. A hedgehog rolls up into a tight spiny ball, but Blair unfurls with generosity. A hedgehog has many predators, Blair many friends. Hedgehogs communicate through grunts, snuffles, and squeals. Now, Blair's verse is sonically versatile. It's true that both are nocturnal creatures, but Blair is sometimes active during the day. In New Zealand, considered a pest that causes immense damage to native species. This may be why Blair left and came to Hong Kong. And McDonald's changed the design of their McFlurry containers because hedgehogs kept getting their heads stuck. Now, Blair, orange peel has not yet changed the shape of their beer glasses, so be careful. Mr. Google informs me that hedgehogs perform a ritual called anointing. They lick and bite the source of a new scent, then they form a froth in their mouths, and they paste it onto their spines. That's right. And in Morocco, they inhale the smoke of burnt hedgehog bristles, and it's a remedy for male impotence. But Tenzing will tell us more family secrets later. What we do know is that hedgehogs don't write poetry, but Blair most definitely does.
Thank you for those kind words, Peter. What's slightly embarrassing about that is that I did some research, a little bit of research, into hedgehogs in order to write my book. I learned that, for example, hedgehogs have between 5,000 and 7,000 spines on their back. I learned that they're nocturnal. Those are two of the things I can remember. Just in perhaps 10 minutes, Peter's already done more research than me, taught you more about hedgehogs than you're going to learn from my book tonight. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for the kind words. So I'm just going to thank a few people before we start. We're going to do a performance of the book tonight. Also, as I mentioned on Facebook, I'm going to run when we're finished reading the book, I'm going to run a small competition for anybody who has bought the book. You do need a copy of the book to enter the contest. I had somebody make a Hogart figurine. It's not quite how I imagined it would be. Nevertheless, it's still kind of cute. And this will go out to one lucky person tonight. Firstly, I have to thank Tin Sen Tam, my lovely wife, for all the support she's given me over the last 7 months. The reason I want to mention this is because, as many of you know, I published this myself. So I wrote the book. I started writing in February, and I had it finished by June. It was a challenge from my brother-in-law, Duncan Klein, who challenged me because I'd been talking about wanting to write a kid's book because I'm such a fan of Dr. Seuss. And I had thought to myself, one day maybe I can write a book as good as Dr. Seuss. So I put in 3 months of effort, and finally I finished it and had quite a few friends give me some feedback, and I finally decided, yes, this is good enough, and I started sending it out to a lot of people, to agents, and got rejected about 15 to 20 times. So that gave me the impetus to produce it myself. That took another 2 to 3 months to get my friend in New Zealand, Chris Stapp, who's a fantastic cartoonist, and he's an artist, a musician. He also does some TV programs in New Zealand, and he did some wonderful pictures for the book, so I'm grateful to Chris for doing that for me. I hope that if I write another one, he'll continue to illustrate for me. There's one person who's not here tonight, but I really have to thank. His name is Matthew Cooper, and he's also a children's author, and he lives in Sai Kung. Matthew has published 2 books himself. One is called Lost in Hong Kong, and the other is called Black Rain Day. So they both have Hong Kong themes, and they're very good. And Matthew has given me a lot of advice about self-publishing and how to kind of go about this. And I've been emailing him like every second day for several months, and he's always very responsive. So if you ever get a chance and you're looking for some books, some kids' books, for the age of about maybe 3 to 6, you can find his books in most bookstores in Hong Kong. Matthew Cooper, Black Rain Day, and Lost in Hong Kong. I also have to thank the Peel Street poets who have heard me recite Hogart in various incarnations over the last few months. They're a big group of people who come here every Wednesday night, and it's kind of like family because we've all been coming here every Wednesday for years now, so we all know each other well, and it's great that many of them are here to support me tonight. Also, thank you to Henrik Hoag, who has taken Peel Street poetry and really made it something in the last year. We've done a lot of promotional events with the poets this year, and Henrik is our MC, and he comes every week and does a wonderful job. So thank you to Henrik. He's been very supportive to me. Still a few more people to thank. There's Denis. I'm never quite sure how do you say your last name, Denis. Tsoi. Denis Tsoi. T-S. It's a difficult one. Denis helped me set up a website recently, and I've managed to sell 8 books through my website, so it's almost paid for itself. Thanks, Denis. Finally, the venue, Orange Peel. The Joyce and Vincent run this bar, and they've always been incredibly supportive of us poets. Poetry is like the art form that makes the least amount of money of any kind, and yet week after week they allow us to come and use this bar to read our poetry just to ourselves, to each other, and we buy a few drinks. So please support the bar tonight. Thanks to the bar staff who look after us every week as well. And so finally, I've actually had a cold for the last 2 weeks. I got a cold about 16 days ago, like a throat cold, and I thought to myself, I'm glad I got it now, so I'll be fine for the night of the launch. But I've still got it, so my throat's getting quite dry up here. Now I've got 6 people who are coming on stage to help me. We're going to perform the book for you, and I'll introduce them one by one. Playing Hogart himself is a fantastic performer I've only met recently. His name's Daniel Levia. Daniel Levia. Please come. Just goes to show I don't know him that well because I don't even know how to pronounce his last name.
It's close enough.
Then is Jade here? Jade? She's not here, okay. We have Angus Gallagher. Angus is playing Marty, who is Hogart's first cousin. He's playing the Owl, who's Hogart's benefactor, and the Badger, Hogart's nemesis. He's playing 3 roles tonight. Then we have Laura Cook. Laura is playing a tough-minded Robin, and she's also playing Hogart's granddaughter, Truffle. Then Peter Kennedy is... It sounds like a bad joke, but he is a worm. And finally, Keisha Cerebo, who is the centipede. Well, thank you so much. Perfect. Cheers. Alrighty, are you guys ready? Hogart the Hedgehog turns Nink. On a breezy fall's eve, in the village of Snorning, as the village storm warner was shouting his warning, and the people of Snorning were dining and yawning, far down the main road, on the south village edge, still sifting his dreams for their gold with a dredge, lay Hogart the Hedgehog, asleep neath a hedge. Soon a breeze gusted under the edge of his slumber, and carried within it the rumbling of thunder, which crackled so loud it awoke him in wonder. But just as 8 voices cheered, "Birthday surprise!" 9 bolts of lightning forked down from the skies, flashing bright zigzags that dazzled his eyes. After pressing the palms of his paws to his sockets, and placing them calmly back into his pockets, the first thing he noticed were 8 bottle rockets whizzing and fizzing around in the air with trails of sparks that glowed bright as a flare and spelled out his name, Hogart P. Hogadair. All around him, his family and friends began clapping. Hogart the Hedgehog, so famed for his napping, that even on birthdays he missed the unwrapping of gifts he had left in the nest of his sons, his daughters and cousins, their dads and their mums, and nephews and nieces, and other loved ones. Now, the Hogadair family were sociable creatures, though it has to be said their most prickly of features was the forthright and eloquent tone of their speeches.
Many thanks,
Hogart said,
for your octet of cheers, and the lovely surprise of your 8 birthday flares, but folks, you should know I'm one more than 8 years.
One more than 8 years?
Hogart's family replied.
That's correct.
Hogart said,
But it can't be denied that few hedgehogs live beyond 7.
He sighed. Then he stuck out his feet.
Here's how it goes. A hedgehog counts years by the number of toes on his feet at the rear, and that's how he knows.
So you're out of rear toes?
Said his first cousin Marty.
Well, don't let that spoil tonight's birthday party, because we're all gearing up to throw you a hearty old blast of a bash and a loud sing-along. So let's get the cake lit. Let's bang on the gong. Let's rouse the whole family to join us in song.
But a plucky granddaughter of Hogart's named Truffle pushed out through the crowd, making quite a kerfuffle, and ordered those hogging the front row to shuffle aside a few steps, saying,
Please, we must wait. We're one candle short, and we can't celebrate till we find out what number comes next after 8.
She then turned to Hogart.
You always love learning and striving and struggling and wriggling and yearning to get to the crux of the problems concerning such curious things as what number comes next. If there's one thing about you the whole town expects, it's that you'll work it out when a crux has you vexed.
Well, Hogart was moved, so he shifted and smiled. Then he tried to explain to this spirited child.
When I was your age, I was fearless and wild. I crossed the vast pasture, explored the wide wood. I roamed around snorting through each neighborhood. I followed my nose anywhere that smelled good. But a hedgehog who's younger is braver and bolder than one who is older with cricks in his shoulder and rickety legs that won't hold him.
He told her. Then a thought caught him out.
Why not one final trip? If I bump this lump that has hardened my hip and bring back the thing that I've lost from my skip.
And the more that he thought it, the more he decided.
Young Truffle is right. I don't want to be chided for shunning this chance when I have always prided myself on my deftness for jumping the gate and refusing to leave any choosing to fate. And I do want to know what comes next after 8.
So, Hogart asked Marty to pass his umbrella, then headed outside and said,
Sorry, old fella. I may be an ancient nest-building hedge dweller of unsteady gait and a build that's too slight, but this problem needs someone to solve it tonight. So the party's postponed. I'll be home by first light.
Then he hobbled uphill in his stripy pajama, quite sure he could find out, with minimal drama, the answer somewhere in that vast panorama of hilltops and field crops and paddocks and brooks, where a great many critters were nestled in nooks, and some not so nice ones, like badgers and rooks. Now, although a hedgehog is at his most cheerful when roaming around, he should always be careful to avoid any varmints who make themselves fearful, like foxes and hawks with a nocturnal eye, or ferrets and stoats whose abundance of sly and slick ways to trap prey can turn prey into pie. At the top of the hill, Hogart kept very quiet, awaiting some rumpus, disturbance, or riot to break out below where he'd easily spy it, with his smell and his hearing directing his gaze through the leaves of the trees and the rain-gauzy haze that floated on top of the soybeans and maize. Soon, he heard a commotion of flapping and sobbing, and spied on the hillside a red robin bobbing her head up and down and her tiny breast throbbing. So he sidled on over and, keeping alert, watched as she struggled to haul from the dirt a terrified worm for her evening dessert. Then Hogart spoke up.
Well, excuse me there, Squire. I won't keep you long, but I'd like to inquire whether you or the earthworm can count any higher than a hedgehog who lives in such humble estate that he's never had reason to count beyond 8. Or if not, a friend who could help out a mate?
Before she could answer, the worm began pleading.
That's your concern? Oh, my poor heart is bleeding. Consider my nightmare. This robin is feeding her body with mine. Oh, the horror, the strife. If I can't count to 1, then my problems are rife. For I count on my body to get me through life.
The robin, displeased with his heated-on treaty, puffed up her chest and said,
Listen here, sweetie. That's a juicy objection, both tender and meaty. But a worm is nutritious, and if not for you, then I can't count on these.
She flapped one wing, then 2. And then she snatched up the worm, and away she...
Woo-hoo!
The sky filled with owl, its colossal wings beating, some creep of a creature whose 4 feet went fleeting away down the hill to some other foul meeting. And the flap-happy robin wove off towards town, with the worm in her beak. He was wearing a frown as he watched Hogart cringe and the talons come down. Hogart went airborne. It happened so quickly that, turvy-whirled topsy, he felt awfully sickly. His hackles went up and his whole body prickly. But the owl didn't mind, for its talons were strong, and a crestfallen Hogart sensed things going wrong.
I let my guard down. There goes my swan song.
But he bucked up and bellowed.
You're foiling my mission to find me a counter, an ace mathematician who can rescue a birthday with simple addition. I insist you release me and promptly disclose the name and location of someone who knows how to count like a pro and do sums on his toes.
The owl smiled down.
You're rather demanding for a hedgehog just breezily, casually standing exposed on a hilltop, as if he were handing himself to a foe, whether feathered or furred. I came to your aid after hearing the word you were having back there with the earthworm and bird. See, I know of a species who tally statistics, then tap dance the answers to complex logistics on legs that hold secrets known only to mystics. Even quantum mechanics is just a wee game to the centipede, famed for its curious claim that to know how to count is to know how to name.
You've lost me.
Said Hogart.
But thanks for suggesting this centipede thing that can help with my questing. The sooner I find one, the sooner I'm resting back home under hedge in my comfortable bed.
But Hogart felt nervous. His nerves turned to dread.
How mammoth its body. How massive its head. We hedgehogs and robins and earthworms are little. Our natures are tough, but our livelihood's brittle. And the highest amount we can count is a tittle. But this centipede, ugh, with its armies of legs, has a brain box so large that it measures in megs the length of its memory, the width of its eggs.
The owl, swooping low, said,
I'll drop you off over this backcountry meadow all covered in clover. There's a centipede here, she's a fast-moving rover, so you're bound to cross paths. But first let me advise, before we part ways and say our goodbyes, us owls have a motto, wide eyes are woodwise.
After rolling to rest in a wet, muddy wallow, Hogart found footprints he thought he would follow, but they trailed off into a shadowy hollow, where a badger-shaped lump lay in sleepy repose.
Don't panic.
Thought Hogart, but shortly he froze. The lump had awoken. It was snuffling its nose. The thing about badgers, it ought to be noted, is they always top most loathsome foe polls, as voted by the Hedgehog Security Council, as quoted. So, Hogart's alarm was routine, common sense. But a badger can trigger a fright so intense that the hedgehog rolls into a ball of defense. Now, a spiny back acts like the shell of a turtle. It hurts to chew through, it can prove a real hurdle, and it causes the bowels and intestines to curdle. When the badger approached this inedible sphere, it nuzzled and nosed, but it couldn't get near the soft underbelly which held Hogart's fear. From his small fetal ball, Hogart hollered,
My dearie, I've a friend dropping by, so bad-temperedly scary that even your predators know to be wary of her centipede pincers, so fierce and so foul. When she wields them and lets out a hair-raising howl, your enemies cower, bear, fox, eagle, owl.
Hogart believed it. His tone was convincing. The badger imagined those huge pincers pincing and flinched in its chicken skin, visibly wincing.
And this hostile hedgehog, which smells a bit rough round its muddy, wet spines, looks too chewy and tough. Not worth it.
It thought, so it left in a huff.
Hoo-haw!
Laughed a voice just outside Hogart's vision.
That bone-headed badger deserves your derision. Stay still,
The voice shrilled.
for the sake of precision. You 6,561 spines. That's a root sum of 9 with 9 factors 2 prime. You numbers so wholly divide to the nines.
Hogart unfurled to see the centipede tapping her toes in a flurry as she kept up the yapping and rattling off math like a grandmaster rapping.
So a hedgehog in danger can count on his spines 6,561 times. That's a perfect square number with a quartic of nines.
Hold your horses!
Said Hogart.
This math is too naughty for a hedgehog whose knowledge of numbers is spotty, and your talk is so dense that it's driving me dotty. You're a centipede? Really? You're tiny, not big. Neither hairy nor scary, you're just a wee sprig. Like an earthworm crossbred with a leggy earwig.
Hoo-haw!
Said the centipede.
Gotta get going.
she gave a small smile, sincere and yet knowing.
Wait up!
Hogart said,
You're supposed to be showing?
but the centipede stopped him.
Look at the signs. They're pointing you straight to the root of your spines. I don't care to ask why, but your number is 9. As for counting beyond that, it's just a recital. A sequence of names, for each number a title. You can name them yourself, though your titles aren't vital.
Then she scuttled away. Hogart sat down to think.
So 9 follows 8, but it could have been Nink. It could have been Ning Nong, or Ninky Dink Dink.
As he rambled on homeward, uphill and down dale, through a forest, a farmyard, around a hay bale, then slowly along the last stretch of the trail, he thought about numbers, the owl in its nest, the centipede counting, the earthworm at rest, and he tried to recall the results of his quest. By the time he got home, he was ready to slumber. His verve had turned weary, his stride to a lumber, and he nearly forgot the name of the number.
I think that it's Nink. But then maybe it's not. Each creature must count on whatever it's got. We hedgehogs are lucky. We've got quite a lot.
Then the party got started, with everyone singing, and laughing and dancing, and bouncing and springing, and even old Hogart found himself swinging along with his grandkids, his daughters and sons, his nephews and nieces, their dads and their mums, and cousins and dozens of other loved ones.